Some big news in the presidential race. Forget Donald Trump, the saddest non-candidate in this crowded field. Forget Ted Cruz, the Tea Party Texan who's clearly alienated more voters than he's won over. The Republican field is about to expand with a man who, like it or not, is very well positioned to actually win the nomination. A governor who's been holding back on everyone so far.
We haven't made an announcement yet, and won't until after our budget's done at the end of this month, which hopefully we'll get our 5th and 6th year of property taxes going down from when I first started taking office.
That's Scott Walker there, and that budget is now passed, although the Associated Press noted it was late and unpopular, arriving a week late, bearing the most no votes that his budgets have ever received from GOP lawmakers, who derided the original $73 billion spending plan as, quote, crap. Now, Walker's confident, even discussing potential running mates like Marco Rubio, which didn't go over that well.
Look, I like Governor Walker, and I'm grateful that he says nice things about me, but we're going to have a primary here, and the voters are going to make that choice. And if Governor Walker and I ever wind up on the same ticket, I expect it'll be in alphabetical order.
Walker has the ingredients of a winning nominee. He's a battle-tested governor, popular on the right for his stands against organized labor, willing to say many of the things that conservatives want to hear, even if that has meant revising his positions. And Iowa experts say he's already a favorite on the ground there. Currently, he is being outspent by Jeb Bush, who announced he's raised a whopping $114 million for his campaign thus far. And Clinton, campaign national finance director, now is sending out a letter asking people to close the gap. All that political dueling, though, between those dynasties isn't keeping the elder statesmen apart. President Clinton and Bush came together in a rare joint appearance last night in Dallas.
I know Jeb, and I'm confident Secretary Hillary will, elevate the discourse.
I know who I'd like to win. But the more important thing for America is that we know what the heck we're deciding on, and we make a pretty good decision.
All right, get your cell phones out. Tonight's question, is Scott Walker the real front runner in the Republican field right now? Go to pulse.msnbc.com/ed. Cast your vote. We'll bring you the results right away. And right now, we go to Ruth Conniff, editor-in-chief of the Progressive Magazine, and Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union and former political director for George W. Bush. Good Friday evening, everybody.
Great to be here.
So let me start with you, Matt. Is it a problem for everyone else that Scott Walker seems to be doing so well in Iowa without even lifting a finger?
Yeah, I mean, we can all say what our political opinions on whether Iowa should start this all off, but guess what? Iowa starts this all off, and anybody who wins the caucuses in Iowa gets a big head of steam, and Scott Walker has ties to the state and is doing great in the early polls, and there's no question a victory there will really catapult him.
Yeah, I mean, Ruth, you look at this, there's been a lot of talk this week about the national polls, about people who have famous names that are in them. They don't mean anything. They never have. That's why people like Herman Cain and Rudy Giuliani and Joe Lieberman do very well in these early national polls and never get the nomination. Should we be looking more towards the early states, and what do you make of Scott Walker's position?
Well, I think that Walker is well positioned. I think that's a long race ahead, so we don't know where he's going. But what Walker has done in Wisconsin is to divide the state, to be enormously appealing to an angry base, to really stir up division among even families where, you're attacking your neighbors who are school teachers and firefighters, trying to take down people's wages, take away their pensions, say that if you don't have a lot, then your neighbor shouldn't have a lot either. It's been really a long and wearing process to have him as governor. Even members of his own party have kind of had it. This budget is incredibly unpopular, as you noticed in the intro, cutting education, slashing the University of Wisconsin by $250 million, taking us down in job creation to the very bottom rank among states and the very bottom of our region. So I think a lot of that is going to come out, and he's going to look less shiny. But he is a real right-winger, so he speaks to the base in Iowa. When he talks about shutting down Planned Parenthood, when he talks about the no exceptions bans on abortion, he takes these positions and he has a lot of credibility. And he also is very affable. He comes off as sort of smooth, so he doesn't necessarily suffer from the optics that the other really right-wing candidates do, where they seem to appeal only to people who are fanatics.
On that point, Ruth, Governor Chris Christie has seen his numbers drop to the 30s, and a lot of it has been about the scrutiny on the way he does business, on his shtick, on his bravado, on what many people feel is his sort of nasty bullying side, which relates to some policy choices he's made, but is a matter of style. You seem to be suggesting that Scott Walker, who may have done things in the state that affect people in far deeper or more problematic ways, seems to be getting away with it because partly you're saying he's a good political communicator.
Yes, although I think he has a Christie-like problem. When you look at the job creation agency that he created and the gifts that were given largely to Republican contributors, 60% to contributors either directly to Walker or the Republican Party of Wisconsin, folks who outsourced jobs, who got big grants that they never had to account for, who didn't employ anybody with the money, who actually moved their manufacturing out of the country and out of the state afterwards. There are a number of large scandals like that that are going to affect Walker. His attempt to shut down open records in Wisconsin, the progressive is part of a lawsuit about it, telling people, telling reporters you can't get information on what's going on in the state. And then, as we're pursuing a lawsuit that will likely be successful, trying to change the law itself so that it's no longer possible to gain information on what government is doing. I mean, these are not good facts. And I think as they come out, it will damage him in the national race.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we tried to do this when Bill Clinton ran for president after being a long-term governor of Arkansas. And you can keep trashing him all you want about in Wisconsin. The facts are the facts. He won in that blue to purple state, and he won over and over and over again. And yes, he's got enemies in the state, and he's made tough decisions. But that state has rewarded him with victory. And the fact is this: you can trash his record all you want. The reason why he's doing so well is because he seems like somebody who people can respect, because he tells them what he believes and what he's going to do, and then he simply does it. And he even does it when the politics of it are tough. So the more you trash him, the more actually I think you're helping him, because he seems to persevere under all this trash talk.
I want to move on to a great fight that's happening with Ted Cruz as well. I think that's a good point there about Scott Walker. This Ted Cruz thing that's getting attention today is, you can't make it up. He's got his book out, as many of these candidates do. It is selling well according to some measurements, but the New York Times, which has an influential bestseller list, basically said they're not going to count it because they see strategic bulk ordering. Ted Cruz firing back, saying the New York Times is lying, calling them to release their evidence or issue a formal apology. Matt, I got to say, if you are a Republican candidate, having the New York Times pick a fight with you over your book sales is like a dream.
Yeah, let me tell you, this is like a dream come true. I mean, Ted Cruz, as a sitting senator, does a great job of running against Washington, and now he gets to run against the New York Times. This is wonderful for him. He'd love this controversy to continue. And actually, it's not Ted Cruz calling him on the carpet. It's also his publisher, who they're actually accusing of wrongdoing as well.
Yeah,
so
I know.
it's a great story.
People don't keep track of this stuff. HarperCollins is not usually in the middle of Republican primary politics, Ruth. And this is kind of a funny one. I mean, it may not matter in the end, but it is one of these weird fights. And my view of it is, if Ted Cruz is selling a lot of books, so be it. Then there are a lot of people that want to at least own his book as a way of feeling like they're supporting him, or maybe read it too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the Ted Cruz book club, but, I don't think it's going to advance his presidential ambitions that much, but I think it will advance his career in Fox News after the presidential contest is over. He'll be our next Dan Coulter.
But Matt, it is this great little political thing for him, and it fits this idea that in the conservative worldview, whether you accept this or not, the mood is that the New York Times is auditing his book sales in a way that they wouldn't other people. That's their fear.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, there's this theme. You can say that this is all about him trying to have a career after politics. But look, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, these are people that are taking on big institutions and all the insiders. And there's a real feeling in this country that somehow the little guy's getting screwed. And I think the right candidates are connecting into that. By the way, it's very hard for candidates like Hillary Clinton, who are the insiders, to appeal to those kind of voters. And I think this is ready-made for Ted Cruz's themes.
Yeah, well, Matt, I think you're right. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are both the little guy, peas in a pod. I always think of them together. Ruth, is there any big issue here where the sheer number of Republican candidates and the sheer number of little dramas, controversies, non-controversies, and otherwise seem to just draw more general attention and independent voters' attention than what's going on the Democratic side, or that doesn't worry you?
Well, Well, I like that we're talking about Bernie Sanders for a second here. I mean, I think he really does appeal to the little guy. I'm not sure that I see anybody in the Republican field who's really going to stand out in that way. I think that was Ron Paul's job, you know, to be an anti-interventionist Republican. It's possible that Rand Paul will play that role, you know, to really raise these issues that are basic core moral issues and differentiate yourself from the rest of the field. I'm not seeing it so much. I'm seeing a lot of squabbling. I'm seeing a really huge field. I'm seeing some very far-right candidates and everybody kind of waiting to see how Bush crushes them with his money. And maybe Walker slides in there as a favorite of the Koch brothers. But it doesn't, I don't see the Pat Buchanan voice. I don't see the Ron Paul voice that says, hey, you know, we are talking about actually economic equality issues here. And that would be very interesting. And I think it is possible on the conservative side for that to happen.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
And I think, go ahead, Matt.
Stay tuned, and you know, these constant slimes on Scott Walker. If he was so right-wing, he wouldn't have won in Wisconsin. That's a fact, and you know it. You should quit saying it.
I don't know that he could win again, and I don't know that he could carry us in a presidential year. This is a state that has really had it with Walker. Look at where we are economically now, and you don't see a lot of smiles.
You got a balanced budget. You cut income taxes. You cut property taxes. You actually have your pensions in a better place.
When we have the biggest cuts to education in any state.
You should learn your facts this time.
And we have the worst job creation. It's terrible.
You should learn
here.
your facts.
Matt, come visit. Come see me. We'll take you around.
Are you not aware that President Obama is the president?
We should all meet up with the Republican legislators who had the facts but still thought part of the budget was crap.
Oh,
Their words, not mine. But plenty to debate here on a nice political Friday. Matt Schlapp and Ruth Conniff, thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Good to be here.